Hey guys! Today we'll be covering a 2018 drama film called Colette. The movie begins in the late 18th century with a young woman named Gabrielle Colette from a rural village in Burgundy. One day, a man named Willie, who runs a literary agency in Paris, pays a visit to Colette's family. It's revealed that both Willie and Colette's fathers are retired from the same army troop. As soon as Willie leaves, Colette pretends to go for a walk, but instead, she heads to the barn where Willie is waiting for her. They spend some private time together, implying that they are having an affair. A few years later, Willie marries Colette and takes her to Paris. At one of the parties, he introduces her to his socialite connections, including his ghostwriters, Verber and Schwab. Willie appears to have published a number of short stories and music reviews under his name, and he now intends to go for his first novel. The next day, he tells Verber about the idea and asks him to write a novel for him. He claims that the novel should have both literature and filth for the great unwashed. Willie also explains his plot, mentioning a hypothetical character named Mona, who is a stunning 18-year-old. She is a woman of the streets who devours men and never wears a corset. He also mentions the novel's hero, named Renaud, who is a genius writer. Mona seduces him in her rundown room and has 5 days of carnal ecstasy with him, after which she has an incredible hold on him. Willie then tells him to bring up the question of whether Renaud will ever return to his burgeoning career, or whether he will be dragged down by Mona's toxic embrace. Following that, Willie instructs Verber to write as quickly as possible in order to make some money to solve their ongoing financial problems. A few days later, Colette receives a letter that mentions Willie is cheating on her. Devastated, she goes to the said location and finds Willie with a prostitute, which disappoints her. Willie tries to explain, but Colette is enraged because he has been lying to her and wasting their limited funds on prostitutes. He tries to reassure her that he will not do it again, but she decides to split up with him and return to Burgundy. The following day, Willie arrives at Burgundy and manages to persuade her to return by promising honesty. He convinces Colette, and she reconciles with him. On the same night, Colette tells him about her childhood, when she used to spend more time with her best friend Luce. In the next scene, Colette overhears Verber and Schwab yelling at Willie because he hasn't paid them for quite some time. It is revealed that the business is unable to generate enough revenue to cover Willie's expenses due to his lavish lifestyle of entertaining socialites. Soon after, a heated argument breaks out between them, and Verber, who is owed 400 francs, sets a strict deadline for the weekend. After they leave, Colette advises Willie to economize his expenditure on parties, races, and casinos. Just then, Willie comes up with an idea and tells her to try writing a novel based on her childhood experiences. Colette, who completely lacks confidence, agrees to give it a try solely for her husband. Following this, Colette begins writing a novel titled Claudine at School, and after a few hours she completes a draft and shows it to Willie. He initially doesn't comment on it because he doesn't want her to feel bad, but when Colette insists, he informs her that her story has no plot and rejects it, claiming it's too cloying and feminine. This saddens her, and as a result, she decides to stop writing. The next day, the couple attend a party where Colette meets Willie's other ghostwriter Gaston and his wife Jeannie. A few moments later, Willie becomes envious of Colette, enjoying the company of Gaston and his wife. He approaches them and invites Colette to accompany him. On the way back, Willie warns her not to get close to Gaston, to which she responds that his jealousy is misplaced because Gaston is already married. A few years later, some court officers show up at Willie's place with a repossession order for 2 armchairs, an armoire, and an oak desk. While emptying the furniture, Willie discovers Colette's draft and teaches her some writing techniques. He claims that the novel needs more spice and less literature because that is how the public wants it. After revising the entire draft, Willie sends the novel to his publisher, Ollendorff, for publication under Willie's byline. To their surprise, the novel becomes a bestseller, primarily among female readers. Everyone in Paris praises Willie for writing such an amazing novel, making him overjoyed. Colette is glad to see her husband so happy. However, Willie forbids her from revealing the novel's true author. Eventually, the novel becomes a huge success, and Willie promises Ollendorff a sequel to Claudine at School. In exchange, he borrows 25,000 francs from Ollendorff and purchases a country house, surprising his wife. Colette, who is blown away by their new home, inquires about the source of money, and Willie reveals that he got a large amount of loan from Ollendorff in exchange for the sequel to Claudine at School. Hearing this, Colette becomes angry and refuses to write another novel, but Willie pleads with her to simply make up some gossip. After a week, Willie checks in on the progress and finds out that she hasn't started yet. He confronts Colette, claiming that there is a deadline for it, to which she again responds that she does not want to do it. As a result, Willie confines her to her room and forces her to write. Surprisingly, the sequel, Claudine at Paris, becomes another bestseller on the market. Eventually, Willie starts becoming famous, and he and Colette become an increasingly recognized couple. A couple of years later, Willie and Colette go out to lunch and receive a notice from Georgie Raoul Daval inviting them to accompany, to which Willie agrees. When Colette inquires about Georgie, he informs her that she is a wayward debutante from Louisiana who married a munitions magnate 3 times her age. Following this, they go for dinner with Georgie and have a good time together. Before they depart, Georgie invites them to her house for a nightcap, but Willie decides to retire for the night. Hearing this, Colette inquires as to the reason for the refusal, to which he responds that the invitation was clearly intended for her. When Colette expresses her desire to join Georgie, he allows her to spend the night with her. Colette then goes to Georgie's place, where the latter reveals that she is fond of natures as well as women. She also talks about the girls who go midnight swimming, as mentioned at Claudine at school, and expresses regret for not going to midnight swimming in her childhood. Their conversation quickly turns intimate, resulting in them kissing and beginning an affair. Upon learning of this friendship, Willie becomes jealous and also starts an affair with Georgie. In this way, the husband and wife start dating Georgie, with both of them being oblivious to it. In between this, Colette writes another novel based on her own life, changing the names of the characters. One day while visiting Georgie, Colette sees Willie on her balcony. She rushes inside and knocks on the door, but by that time, Willie has already fled. However, she notices Willie's blue cigar smoke lingering in the air. Later, Colette mentions the incident in her novel and shows it to Willie, who realizes that the chapter is based on their real life. In the novel, she refers to the guy as a liar because he has previously promised honesty. Colette then intends to kill off the character in the next novel. Hearing this, Willie requests that she not do so, to which she repeats his line, "The hand that holds the pen writes history." The next day, Colette pays a visit to Georgie, who has learned that their real-life events will soon be published in a novel. As a result, she requests Colette to ask Willie to change the script, but Colette responds that it's not clear who is who because the names have been changed. Despite this, Georgie begs for a change because if her husband finds out, he will take strict action against Willie. When Colette still refuses, she reveals that her husband has already paid a large sum for the entire print run to be destroyed. When Colette hears this, she is shocked and storms out. Elsewhere, Ollendorf burns all the copies of the book before selling them, but he does not purchase the copyright, allowing Willie to reprint and sell the books. Willie and Colette also audition several women for the role of Claudine in the stage adaptation and end up choosing a woman named Polaire. Eventually, Willie and Colette begin launching various products under their brand name, Claudine. Their business scales higher day by day. One day at a party, Colette notices a transgender woman named Missy, who only shows up for very special occasions. Colette finds her personality to be fascinating. In the following scene, we see Colette talking with Missy, who congratulates her on giving a voice to young girls between girlhood and womanhood. Missy also suggests she owns up to the novels. Colette asks whether anyone informed her about the truth, to which she responds that meeting her is enough. Later, Colette writes about Missy, saying that she has never met anyone with such a reserved, yet brave personality. As time passes, the two begin to enjoy each other's company, resulting in them having an affair. They begin to spend more time together, and Missy advises her to reveal the true author of the novel to the public. One day, Colette pays Willie a visit at his office and suggests that the novels be published under both their names. Hearing this, Willie rhetorically asks her if she wants to kill the goose that's laying the golden Claudines. However, Colette ignores him and demands her name be included in the books, to which he claims that Willie is a brand and women writers don't sell anyway. As expected, this infuriates Colette, prompting her to storm out of the office. A few years later, Colette and Missy are seen practicing animal movement acts, and one day, they perform the act at the Moulin Rouge in front of an audience that includes Willie. After performing for a while, the two of them kiss on stage, eliciting moral outrage from the audience. Following the incident, Willie cites the act to be a financial disaster and sells the house he previously purchased. Colette attempts to stop him from doing so, but the house is legally in his name. Furthermore, he sells all the rights to the Claudine books to Ollendorf for 5,000 francs without Colette's knowledge. A few days later, Colette meets Ollendorf, who reveals that Willie sold him the rights to Claudine, leaving her broke. She then confronts Willie, claiming that it was hateful and stupid of him to sell it because they can no longer make money from those novels. In addition, she reminds him of how he always took away everything they owned, including their child. It is revealed that Willie killed their child in the past. She goes on to say that she is the real Claudine, and it is her childhood, her memories, and her opinions that went into the novel. However, they are all gone, and there is no chance of repair. Angered and feeling betrayed, Colette leaves Willie. In the next scene, Willie, who regrets his actions, reveals the true author to his assistant and then asks him to burn the Claudine manuscripts. But instead of destroying it, his assistant returns them to Colette. On the other hand, Colette and Missy travel to another city where they continue to perform their act on stage. She also writes a new novel titled The Vagabond based on her music hall experiences, and finally has it published under her own name. Eventually, Colette goes on to publish over 30 novels and short story collections, becoming the most celebrated female author in the history of French literature.